Hello and welcome to Launching Your Broadcast Career, brought to you by Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia in association with PHL 17. This is our free educational series for college students who want a career in broadcasting. So today's episode, very special. I'm so excited. It's Anatomy of a Morning TV News Show. Did you ever wonder how they put it together, how they pick the stories, what comes first, what comes last? I'm Lee Richards from Broadcast Pioneers and currently also at Classic Rock 102.9 MGK, KYW News Radio, and I'm your moderator for today's program. We have this amazing panel of broadcast professionals from PHL 17 today. In the next hour, you'll learn about the many facets of TV, especially a morning news show, and get practical advice on how to jumpstart your career. Welcome, everyone. Hello. That's you guys. All right. So we are just going to do a quick introduction. I know everybody is so busy doing their real jobs during the day, so we will probably have a few more people join us before the show is over. Let's say welcome to, in the order that they were given to me, Vince Giannini. Hello, Vince. How are you?
I'm good, Lee. How are you doing today?
Good to see you. Vince is VP and General Manager of PHL 17 and a really super guy, always willing to help in the community. And we appreciate you very much. And thanks for being here, Vince.
Thank you.
Matt Toal, News Director, all around expert at everything, I think. And he was directly working with me in getting the program together. Special thank you to you, Matt. Amanda VanAllen, anchor. Hi, Amanda. Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Now, you most recently worked in Cleveland before you moved to Philadelphia, and you and your wife are expecting a baby this summer.
We are. She's going to be so cute. I can't wait.
Oh, it's one, your station is famous for babies.
We are.
We were told not to drink your water. Nick Foley, hi. How are you?
I'm great, Lee. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Nice to be here.
Nick is another anchor in the morning that you see the two of them front and center each morning. And Nick has been with the show since it expanded in 2018. He enjoys trying all the new restaurants in the region. Nick, we're going to have to talk.
Yeah, we definitely should. I was nice enough to, or Matt was nice enough to give me a segment to work on with food in the city. So I couldn't say no to that. No thanks.
Well, I definitely have to pay attention to that, because if you go without a recommendation, sometimes you're disappointed, Jenna Meissner, half of the Delco duo from Media, Pennsylvania, and you just got married in September.
I did just get married. Hello.
Very happy to have you with us. And you are the traffic specialist, yes?
Yes.
And we see you in the morning. And meteorologist Monica Cryan, who has a special direct line to Mother Nature. I heard you say it on the air the other day, so you cannot dispute that. And you're the other half of the Delco duo. What is in the water in Media, Pennsylvania?
I know. Media really produces a lot of media talent. So
fabulous. Jennifer Lewis Hall. Hello.
Hi, Lee. Hi, everybody.
You're so beautiful.
Thank you. So are you.
Community Affairs Manager and host of In Focus. Jennifer is a New Jersey native and first came to the station in the 90s, then came back about 7 years ago to work on the morning news team. And as I said, she hosts PHL 17's Community Affairs program In Focus. A pleasure to have you.
Oh, so good to be here.
Is Jason here? I don't see Jason. Oh, there he is down on the bottom. Okay. Jason is the morning news producer. You've done so much, Jason. I've been following your career.
You're the one. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I'm a big fan of yours as well. I know you've been doing this for a very long time and doing it well.
We have about 5,000 Facebook friends in common.
Oh, there you go.
So you spent decades on the radio in Philadelphia with a lot of my friends and now produces the morning show as well as hosts the weekly sports program on PHL 17. Thank you, Jason, for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Steve Koistra. Hello, morning show director.
Good morning. How you doing?
Now you've been there for 25 years. See, that's in my ballpark. That's usually how I stay, how long I stay at a
I
station.
started when I was 10.
Just a little older than me. I always say I started when I was 2. And you direct the 7 a.m. show. So is each hour directed by a different person or each half hour?
Somewhat, yes. The first 2 hours, it could be different every day.
Okay. That's interesting.
So-
We're gonna see a morning show meeting in just a minute.
Okay.
Chris couldn't make it, so Tom Smith is representing the photography section. Chris is from South Jersey. Hello, Tom. Tom. I have to write things down or I forget. Tom Smith, thank you for being with us. Don't take my picture. Holly Hoepful, creative services producer. Where's Holly? There she is.
Morning,
Boy,
everyone.
we got a lot of people today. This is so awesome. Thank you very much for being here. And Camille Mason, sales account executive. Thank you very much for joining us. You're the guy who helps to pay all the bills and the salaries. So we appreciate it. And we're going to come back to everybody. And an hour isn't going to be enough, but we have to at least try. So let's hope that this video works. We're going to see the 4 a.m. morning show meeting and some of the things that go on in putting the show together. Let's go right to it.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. All right, let's get started with the weather. A very Irish forecast. Love saying that. Temperatures today will be in the mid-50s, cooler. It's going to be rainy for the start of the show, and then it will continue throughout the day today. On and off showers, heavier downpours at times. And then by tomorrow, we're right back to sunny skies, temperatures in the low 70s. And then there's another chance for rain on Saturday.
Chance for rain on Saturday. How about Sunday?
Sunday is dry but cooler. So we don't after Friday we don't have 70s again in our 7-day.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Monica.
Yep.
Christopher Roberts O'Brien's here.
Sorry. Okay. All right. We're starting off our A block with weather and traffic as we always do. Out of that, we're going to do our local VOs first. Pizza delivery guy carjacked in North Philly. This happened Tuesday night. The suspect has been arrested, and Montgomery County man is charged with murdering his 8-year-old son. Very sad. Out of that, we're going to come up to the newsroom. Jen Lewis Hall is going to be here for us. She's talking about Danielle Outlaw speaking out about like a T-shirt that someone is selling, or the local fraternity order police is selling actually. There's a slogan on it that they don't like, and the police logo is on it, so they're unhappy about that. We have a photo of it too. In the B block, earthquake in Japan. I believe it was a 7.4 magnitude. We have video of.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Here is 7 to 9. A block news. Jennifer Lewis Hall in the newsroom here. B block. NASA astronaut breaks a record. Most days on the International Space Station. It's like 350 something, I believe it was. C block headlines, and we'll do business. D block will be Philly Feeds Foley. E block, we'll go back to some news and back to Jen. F block, Dionne Warwick wants the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to change its name to encompass more like a general music Hall of Fame, not just rock and roll. I mean, that's kind of what it is, but it's named Rock and Roll, so she wants the name changed. Do a live tease from Alyssa at the end of the block. We'll do a couple talkers before we get to Alyssa. We did this story about a month or so ago about this huge potato that had set again, or at least they thought it was going to set a Guinness World Record. It did not set a record because it turns out it's not a potato. So it's a fun.
Yep, Boston.
That playlist that I sent you, Matt, that link for the Irish dancers has a ton of like fun Irish music. So if you want to take from that too.
I'm opening it up right now. Okay. We'll do some Irish songs. We don't have any interns today, so Jenna. Well, luckily Jen's here today, but we'll probably need your help, like wrangling all the dancers later on. Cool. All right, guys. Top of the morning to you. Have a great day.
Wow, that's what it is, huh? The morning show meeting. And what is, for all of us who don't know, Block A and Block B, et cetera, et cetera? Who wants to address that?
Jay, I'll let you answer that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Block A, first block of the show, typically headlines, the major stories of the morning. Block B, I mean, it depends on the hour. The first 2 hours are usually more newsy. The 2 hours I produce are a little more fun, but the B block is typically still a little bit newsy. Do some news in the C. D blocks typically a little bit lighter, but basically it's each block of the show. So there's, at least on our show, there's 4 blocks per half hour.
So how many blocks is that? How many hours?
4 hours. So 4 times 8.
I was
42,
never good at math.
42. Yeah.
All right. And while we're starting to pull the morning show apart just a little bit, what are some of the aspects that our students who are watching right now may not know, the nuts and bolts of putting the show together? Like, for instance, how do you pick the news stories that you're going to air?
I guess I'll take that one because I'm usually part of those conversations in the morning. So our first producer, the one that comes in before Jay, actually gets in the night before our newscast even begins. So they get in around 11:30 at night, kind of, has their finger on the pulse of what the other stations were at least covering that night in the 11 o'clock news. Is there something that was really big and breaking that night that we're going to follow up on in the morning? A lot of times that is what morning shows are doing in this market. If something big does not break overnight, you kind of update people on what the big story was last night in case they didn't get a chance to watch the late news. Other mornings you come in, and it's a tragic example, but Monday morning we came in and 2 troopers had been struck and killed and a civilian on Interstate 95. So we listen to scanners overnight, we get news tips, we scour social media to see if people are tweeting or posting to Facebook about breaking news. And from there we have discussions about what we can put our reporters on, and they start making phone calls from there.
Yeah, a lot of people always go, oh, well, we'll see it on the news, and then they don't, or they wonder why they don't see a particular story on the news and what takes first place in being picked. For instance, if there was some hacking going on from Russia that really happens and it's not just a warning, I'm sure you make that a top story versus the potato that I still don't know what it is. Somebody said in the morning show meeting video that there's the world's biggest potato, but it wasn't, it was, and it cut off. What was that potato?
Gosh, guys, I don't remember that story. What was it? Was it a gourd?
Wasn't it a gourd?
Yeah, it was a gourd. That's what it was. Yeah.
You can't leave us hanging with a story.
It's a cliffhanger.
We call that a tease, Lee. That was a great tease.
I know, and I would lose sleep over it. So each one of you found your way to PHL 17 in a different way. Some people are local. Some came from another state or city. And I'd like to find out a little bit about each one of you and how you got to the current job you're in now. And then a little later on, we're going to get some advice. Should we go in order or just take volunteers? All right, I'm going to pick you if you don't raise your hand. I never was a teacher, by the way. Yeah. All right, why don't we just go right after Vince, the leader of the pack. Now, you have been in Philly about 20 years, Vince?
I've been in Philadelphia 18 and a half years. So I started my career in broadcasting back in Chicago at WGN TV, great local station there. I actually came up through the finance side of the business, a little unusual for folks that make it the general manager, but there's a few of us. After Chicago, I spent 8 years in Los Angeles and then moved to New York as a station manager for 2.5 years until I came down here. So this has been a great place. Love this city. My 3 kids have all grown up here. So that's how I got here. And
no, that's great.
There's some interesting stories on a few other folks here. Some are interns at the station. They'll tell you.
Well, let me go after Matt first. Now,
mine's not that interesting.
You were from where, Matt? Delaware County?
Yeah,
Chester.
from
Yeah.
also media, Delaware County, which is very bizarre that there's several people on
Wow.
the call also from media. And Vince lives there currently. Sorry, Vince, if I'm giving too much away. But a lot of media connections. But yes, I went to Westchester University, interned at Fox 29 across town. Started as an intern, got my first part-time job out of college there, and worked my way up from the assignment desk to producing. And then after being there for almost 5 years, an opportunity arose at PHL 17 to start something new and, kind of have my own vision for it. And Vince kind of gave me the freedom to, hey, let's go start a morning show. And here we are 3 years later with the second longest morning show in Philadelphia each morning at 4 hours long.
And one observation I want to share with our audience, this particular team not only works like a family, they seem like a family. Everybody gets along so well. And my experience is visiting your station and watching you on your show, on the morning news show. You are a family, and you're very blessed because you don't see that everywhere. So that's just a little from me to you kind of feeling. Jennifer Lewis Hall, we don't want to ignore you. Where did you start?
Well, I actually had the pleasure of being right here in Philadelphia. I was an intern a long time ago at Channel 3. I went back there to be a studio producer for a show that really took off at that time. That was in multiple markets called Evening Magazine. It was one of the first magazine shows. Nancy Glass actually was her studio producer. And so I really learned the rigors of producing that way. It was really more trial by fire because I had to learn too. It was a pretty big job for starting out and kind of running the studio. Always loved producing, stuck with that, and then felt confident enough to be the face of some of my stories as well. I'd gone to school for economics and finance, but also got my master's from Medill at Northwestern. So I knew I wanted to write and combine at some point business news, and did that at CNBC and CNN. And WCBS, and then really worked between New York and Philadelphia, but had I think the interest in all types of news. And I love that. So for students who are interested in saying, well, do I just want to cover one beat or another thing? We say beat, one area, just education or politics or business. For me, I wanted to cover it all, but have a niche. And that helped me, having a business news background. And from there, I always say business news is every story. With resources and allocation, whether you're going to the school board meeting or whether it's about gas prices, all things that affect people every day. So I worked here in the 90s and I really loved it. And we had a full-scale newscast at that time, a 1-hour newscast. And so to come back again and to be able to do that and help with the morning show it felt like home. And it was really a pleasure to see something being created again. And now work in a way where I work a lot with the public on raising awareness. It's a great way to really touch base with what's happening in the community.
Having done public affairs myself, it's very gratifying to be able to bring and give back to the community. Nick Foley, are you still awake?
I'm still here. Yeah.
So where'd you go to school?
So I actually went to school at the University of New Hampshire. We didn't really have a broadcast journalism program per se. It was more, theory-based communication. But I was fortunate enough to get in with a local television station pretty early in my college career. So that kind of lit the fire a bit. And, I went the route of more getting hands-on internship type experience rather than actual lessons and things like that. So,
and you recommend that for people to take those opportunities if they present themselves?
Sure, you are. It's a bonus to kind of identify where you want to be. During your college career. Obviously, some people know exactly what they want to do when they enroll as a freshman. Some people take a little bit longer, which is what I did. But I think now today, certainly these college programs are geared towards. There's a lot of them that are geared towards television if that's what you want to do as a career. But I don't think it's game, set, and match if that's not what you've gone into college for. You can still kind of find a way in if that's what you want to do. So.
And you really don't have to go to broadcasting school or a broadcasting program. A good background and a good education will be helpful in critical thinking in whatever field you go into. But there's no real qualification. If a person is fabulous, a station would be silly to pass them up.
I
So-
certainly agree. I think it really truly comes down to passion and whether you want to be in the field or not. And if you do, you're going to make your presence known, whether it's, at a local television station or a local, a print journalism area, whether it's a newspaper or some sort of magazine or something like that. You're going to get yourself in the door, and you're going to let people know that this is what you want to do. And I think that'll kind of speak for itself, and you'll get to
just try every opportunity that you have.
That is absolutely imperative. Like, if you have an opportunity, make sure you take advantage of it.
And something will jump out at you as the path. You could have 100 paths, but eventually over a small period of time, you're going to realize where you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
If you don't know going in. Amanda VanAllen, what's the due date for the baby?
She is due August 8th.
So exciting.
We couldn't be happier. Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I went to undergrad, sort of like Nick. We didn't have a journalism program. I went to a liberal arts school. So I decided to get my master's in journalism. So I went to NYU for my master's program. I did a bunch of internships when I was there in New York. I worked at CNN. I worked at NBC. I worked at BET. After that, I got my first job at ABC News in New York City, which was wonderful. So I started out my journalism career in network news, which is very odd and like usually doesn't happen, but I was in New York City and the opportunity came up. So I took it. I was writing for the Good Morning America website. Then I moved around a little bit within ABC. I finally got a job as a desk assistant on World News Now, which is the early morning news show on ABC. It comes on at like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a very fun show, sort of like what we do on PHL 17, which is kind of funny because my career has come full circle. So I did that for almost 3 years. And then I got my very first reporting job on Long Island, and I still did some reporting in New York City. I was there for 1 year, 9 months, and 3 weeks. It was a very challenging job. So I remember exactly how long I was there. I was a one-woman band, and I worked my butt off. And then from there, I moved to Allentown, Pennsylvania, WFMZ. I was there for 2 years, went to Cleveland. Nick and I were actually at the same station in Cleveland. And then I got this wonderful job at PHL 17.
Truly awesome. The Delco duo, Jenna, Meissner, was traffic your first choice in what seems like the beginning of a long career?
It definitely was not. When I was a student at the Lou Klein College of Media and Communication at Temple, Toal's, I never thought of traffic reporting in my future. I just knew that I wanted to be in some news in any capacity that it would have me. So I actually interned at PHL in 2015 and then did not let them get rid of me since then. I worked various roles from production assistant. I was a photographer at one point, editor, and then until what I do today, which is the traffic on the morning show, and among a bunch of other things. I don't want to limit myself just to traffic, but
good.
We do a lot of fun guest segments. We have a lot of light talking segments. So yeah, it's been a great ride with PHL 17.
Right. We actually have another video we're going to go to, but I just wanted to say something about what you just said. You have given yourself massive opportunity by trying on all these different hats. And I was talking with my program director here at MGK this morning, and we were saying how some shows have a huge staff of people to do this, to answer the phone, to push a button. And most of us here are a one-man band, including being the engineer on duty. And somehow, if you're able to do everything, to me, that's a wonderful thing. And it looks like that's the type of person you are, Jenna.
I think it's so important to not leave school thinking I am going to do this. You have to be open to any and all jobs that will get your foot in the door. And then what you do once your foot in the door, that's left up to you.
Right. And if they slam the foot on your door, well, get a new pair of shoes. We're going to come to you, Monica, in just a couple of minutes because we're going to your video first that you made. You gave us a little tour of the station of PHL 17, and I appreciate that very much. Let's check it out and see what Monica has to bring us.
Welcome to PHL 17. I'm meteorologist Monica Cryan. I'm going to be taking you through our studio, our newsroom. If this looks like this is an old grocery store, it's because it is. This used to be a grocery store, and now we've made it into the best newsroom in Philadelphia. Our first stop is at sales. This is the other part of the newsroom where people make the monies. It may not seem all that important, but this is the break room where we make our coffee. This is vital during a morning show. Next up, this is the brain of the newsroom. This is production control. We've got Steve and Eddie here. They make all the changes to the show, all the audio, and which camera to take and when. Without this, we wouldn't have a product to put on air. Now we've made it to the green room. This is where we put our guests before they go live out in the studio, and they can sit here, watch some TV, and get some coffee. And now here we are in the studio, and it's actually made up of 3 or 4 sets, including your blue set here. This is where we'll have interactive guests with a lot of movement, such as dancers, singers, bands. And then over here is your only working kitchen set in Philadelphia. We actually have a working kitchen stove. How fun is that? And we bring on a lot of restaurants, a lot of bars to present food and drink, and we have the most fun here. But then over there is our actual news set. And that's where our 2 main anchors, Amanda and Nick, will sit, read the news. And we also, a lot of times, Jenna and I, Jenna, the traffic anchor, will join them on this news set too to talk about today's happening, what's trending. And then you can face this way and you can actually see what they look at. And that's their televisions. And that's where your prompter will be as well. If you are a news anchor, your prompters will be in these cameras. And that's what you will be using to kind of read the news from your scripts. And then back over here, the most important part, it's the weather center. That's my weather center. That's where I work. Come up with my own forecast, make my own graphics. On this computer here, we use WSI. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's an IBM product. IBM is in charge of WSI, and that's where I make all my weather graphics that then air over here. So this is your green wall. Some people call it the chroma key, some people call it the green screen, but I stand in front of here and I can't see the graphics other than in the monitors to my side and in front of me. Behind me, all I see is green. And we're at the edit bays. We have 3 edit bays here, and our editors will take a look at the script and edit a lot of the video to fit what the anchors will be reading, and a lot of times they will be editing here our reporter packages as well. That can get up to about 1.5 to 2 minutes, sometimes even longer than that. They work with Adobe Premiere and Bit Central. And we finally made it to the newsroom. This is where everyone gathers with great ideas for the show. We've got web, anchors, reporters, producers, news directors, meteorologists, and even traffic anchors sit here, and we come up with the show and write it in our scripts. We use specifically ENPS. You may have also heard of iNews, but we specifically use ENPS to organize our show for the rundown. And then we've got 4 hours of news Monday through Friday, starting at 5 a.m.
Thank you so much, Monica. Wonderful job. And you are the other half of the Delco duo, another media kid, and we appreciate you're doing the video. Really good job. You're very enthusiastic. You give me energy.
Thank you.
Where did you go to school?
I went to, well, growing up in this area, I went to Waldron and Marion Mercy on the main line. And then when I graduated, I went to Penn State for their meteorology program because I did know that I was hoping to get into news through weather, and graduated about a decade ago, and then traveled across the country to different smaller markets, always with the intention of coming back to Philadelphia. So worked in areas like Texas, Alabama, Connecticut, Colorado, then moved back to Philly, where I worked as a freelancer for one of the other stations. If students aren't familiar, freelancing is when you actually don't sign a contract with a news station. You kind of work for them out of contract, taking it sometimes day by day or week by week. And then that's in the middle of my freelancing at another station. I got a call from Matt, and he asked if I would like to interview. So that's how I got the position with PHL 17, working my dream job as a meteorologist for a Philadelphia news station.
Wonderful. We're going to have to shorten up the answers just a little bit because we want to have time to fit in some questions and answers from our audience. For those of you, our students and general public watching on YouTube, if you haven't already, you can put your questions in the question and answer portion, the chat portion of the YouTube page where you're watching, and then we'll get the questions as time permits to the person or persons who can answer them best. So start writing your questions if you haven't already started. Okay. Tom Smith, photographer?
Yeah, I'm actually the special projects producer. So I do all the weekend specials. I'm a photographer. I write for the morning show. I do the lowers for the morning show. I do guest segments. I do it all.
That's it. Good for you. Where'd you go to school? Very quickly.
I'm also from media. So I went to I know, right? I went to St. Joe's Prep and then Villanova.
I guess I could never work there. I'm from Philadelphia. Born and raised, native child. Jason, you did work other places. You grew up in a family where broadcasting was probably sometimes discussed at the dinner table.
Yeah, well, broadcasting is all I've ever wanted to do. My parents were always big sports fans. We were always talking about Harry Callis and Merrill Reese and Gene Hart, who did the Flyers years ago. I'm not from media. I'm from Bucks County, and they still hired me. So, yeah, this is actually my second time at PHL 17. I back in the early 2000s, I freelanced doing weather at the old WB 17. Before that, I did weather in Allentown, but not at the same time as Amanda VanAllen. I'm actually my roots are in radio, as you know, Lee. I've been a radio guy for almost 30 years now. Dabbled in TV in the late 90s. That led to some other opportunities. I did traffic on WPVI for a little while. There was a little cable channel called Tango Traffic I was on, and that's where I kind of got affiliated with PHL 17 because we did the traffic on there. They did a national morning show at the time. I know, Vince, you remember that. It was not Eye Opener. What was the one before Eye Opener? It was no, it wasn't Better Philly. It was Eye Opener. Okay,
Better Philly.
I came after Better Philly, but the point is, so that's where I kind of got affiliated with PHL 17, and I knew Steve Highsmith from years back anyway. And Steve brought me aboard in late 2014 before we even started our newscast. We were still running the national show with news cut-ins. I kind of helped launch what was a half-hour newscast, and look at us now. A few years later, we're doing 4 hours, and I've been lucky enough to produce, do some stuff on the air, some weather, some traffic, some packages. Now doing a sports show, and sounds corny, but the station, it's not just a job. The station's in my heart. I love the place. I love the people. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
Like I said, it's a family. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I'll get to that. That's a question. All right. So Steve Koistra, we are not ignoring you. What does the show director do these days? And how does it differ than from directing a show in years past?
Oh, it differs a lot. We used to have in a crew, we would have maybe 3 camera guys, a floor guy, an audio person, a tape person, a video person, a producer, director, and now there's me and Ed. So that's basically it. So it's changed quite a bit due to automation. The cameras are automated. The scripts are all basically scripted. So it's a lot easier in some ways, ties your hands in other ways. So it's changed a lot in the last, I would say, like 5 years or so. But it's changed a lot since I've been in the business, from tape to, hard drives and all that.
A lot has changed.
A lot, yeah.
Oh my goodness. First of all, it used to be you would go to school to learn how to edit. Right. Now the and the kids today can get on their computer and figure it out for themselves, because it's not like the old days, splicing tape and putting, the chalk line and all that stuff. You guys remember that? Or I shouldn't say that. You're young people. Did you ever have to edit tape the old way, analog tape? No. Oh my gosh. I was determined to learn how to do that. I have to be honest with you. I started in the 70s. And I was determined to learn how to edit because I had to make an audition tape, among other things. So I sat up all night for 2 nights and kept doing it over and over and over and over again until I got it right. And now it's just dit, 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 dit. So that's the good part. But Steve, when you're directing the show, do the cameras stay stable? Do they move at all like robots? What goes on? It's different than the old cameraman.
Yeah, they're a lot different than that. They do not move in physically, like we have to go out there and move the camera because they are what they call PTZ cameras. So they pan and tilt or zoom. So that's all they can do. So they basically are stable, but you can get them to zoom through the automation. And you can do it manually also, to zoom or focus and all that stuff.
Can you still switch cameras?
Oh yeah. We figured
camera
out a way.
Camera 1, camera 2.
Oh yeah. It's a little clunky sometimes, but I mean it's not as quick sometimes. But on the other hand, it does a lot of things. It'll call up a shot like that. I mean, I shot a Monica in the weather center. I hit one button, it's gone.
Gotcha.
And it's perfect.
Gotcha.
So it's one of those things. It's a trade for Some
and
things
that's
are good, some things are not.
and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
They call it progress with a question mark. Thank you so much. A question. I guess it's going to be addressed to Tom Smith. It's a photographer question. If somebody else wants to jump in, that's fine. Are the photographers always on call? Is their question that came to me.
So we only run a morning news show here at PHL 17. So I get in, I'm the last photographer to get in. I get in at 4 a.m. and I'm here until noon. And at any time during that period from 4 a.m. to noon, Matt can send me anywhere within our viewing radius. So there's some days where you'll be peacefully editing a package in your cube, and Matt will come up to you and be like, hey, you got to go down to Kensington to film a triple homicide or something. So it's a very interesting job because the photogs not only do hard news, but we also do feature reports too. So one day you could be on a farm with a bunch of animals having fun with a reporter, and the next day you could be covering something pretty bad. So but to answer your question, during our shift, yes, we are always on call to go out and find the news. Yeah. During
your shift. And there you go. And everything else has to wait. But that's the nature of just a morning show. But what a show. 4 big hours. Pretty awesome, huh? Holly, I did not forget you. Creative services producer. What do you do, sweetie?
So I work in the creative services or promotions department here. So what I do is I do a lot of the promotion specifically for the morning show. I do like commercials for sitcoms. I'll produce like client commercials that we get from the sales department. And then I also do a lot of stuff on our website, and I work on our weekend feature show called Weekend Filler. So yeah, a lot going on.
You have all around skills, it seems, in many areas.
Writing, shooting, editing, can do it all. Yep.
And where did you go to school?
I went to Temple University as well, the same Luke Klein school as Jenna. And I also started here as an intern back in January of 2018. I started as a sophomore in college, and then after my internship, I got a part-time job here and kind of continued that, and then started full-time right after graduation.
It wasn't always the Luke Klein school. I knew Luke Klein. I was friendly with him. He was one of the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia. When we went there, it wasn't called the Luke Klein School. So, but do I have to change that on my resume? That's what I want to know. Now, you don't do you do it because it's fun, it's challenging, it's what you choose to do with your career, but somebody has to pay you. And how do you get the money to be paid? Kamal Mason, you're the money man. Sales account exec.
Yeah, so I use our two TV stations. We do have two TV stations. We have PHL 17 and we also have Antenna TV. So I use our two TV stations and our digital products to help businesses reach their target customers and target clients in order to help them build their brand and grow their business. We come up with full service turnkey marketing plans in order to help these businesses achieve their desired results. I am a lifelong Philadelphia guy, born and raised. I went to Mansfield University, where I majored in communications with an emphasis in broadcasting. So I did do analog editing as a senior at Mansfield. Interned at NBC 10, which is in Philadelphia, in the press and community relations field. So all I did was copy and paste. Thanks for watching. Hope you keep watching NBC 10 for 40 hours a week. Then my last week of my internship, I had to go down to the sales department, and this is what fostered my desire to get into account executive business and sales. So the salespeople came in at 10. They took 3-hour lunches, and they all drove Lexuses. So I said, you know what, I got to get into that. I didn't tell Vince that during my interview though.
What kind of car do you drive?
Now I'm a father of 3, so now I drive a minivan and an Acadia.
There you go. There you go. So let me ask you this. And this is maybe a hard question. How did things change for your job doing sales during the whole COVID thing, which hopefully will be winding down?
Right. So it affected, I'm gonna talk about, some of the things that affected me personally. So I had a couple car dealers on that weren't getting enough inventory to advertise during COVID. So during that time, some advertisers thought it wasn't wise to advertise, but then there's other companies in the market, people that provide home health care and people that provide other services for people that's going to be sick or mentally ill. They had to increase their presence on there. So we just found a way to bridge the gap between the two. So you lose some, but you gain on others. So it wasn't really that bad as long as you know how to plan and help people, with their desires.
And now things are changing again. Things are opening up. Cars are being sold. Restaurants, concerts, whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
No problem.
Is there anybody that I accidentally missed? I think I got everybody at this point to find out a little bit about you. Now, we want to give advice to the students. And again, for those of you watching, you can put your questions on the YouTube page where you're viewing the video in the chat feature. Just write your question, whatever it may be, pertaining to this topic, and we'll get it to the proper person on the panel. I'm looking outside today. I was thinking of the first video, the morning show meeting, and Monica was going over the weather in that video. That was done like a week ago because you mentioned St. Patrick's Day. It was the same forecast as we have for this week. It's exactly the same forecast.
Right. Yeah. Not that nice. A little rainy right now. But yeah, they really do try and I try and do the forecast at the very beginning of that meeting, just so the producers and managers are all on the same page, writing some of the teases when they go to me and say, "Oh, Monica, she has more on the forecast. She says it's going to be sunny, but what does tomorrow bring?" Just so that they know kind of how to be writing these teases, or even some of the intros when the anchors toss to me are written out. And so, you have to be weather aware.
Right. For those people who are watching or who will watch later, by the way, our experience is when people are in class or have jobs or whatever it may be, they will come and watch the video after the fact. It will be posted on YouTube as long as we can get away with it. And so they may be picking this up afterward. So whatever we say today will be very, very helpful. And for those classes that actually took this on as a project at Newman College and at Temple, we appreciate that very much. A couple of the instructors there have actually made this part of their day, and that's pretty awesome too. We want to give as much information as we can that will be helpful to these people in finding their way. How important do you guys, any and all of you, consider an internship at a broadcast facility for a person's future career? Vince?
I think it's extremely important. You know what? It gives you some insight into a station when you're going on other interviews. You know, the whole idea, you're trying to build up your resume so that when you get some interviews with somebody, you can talk about experiences. And that's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to talk about things you saw, things you did, and why you're passionate about it. And that's going to help you get the next job. And admittedly, a bunch of our interns, we end up trying to bring them on if we don't have full-time jobs as part-timers, and then eventually as full-time staff. So that's important for us as a recruiting tool. So admittedly, during COVID, that we weren't able to bring in interns, you know, we weren't bringing very many people in the building at all. It's hurt our ability to recruit in certain areas. So we're thrilled to have interns back in the building again now and more this summer. So if there are students out there watching, you know, by all means, look online. You'll find our job postings. We're PHL 17. We're owned by Nexstar, and you'll be able to find our postings out there.
So who directly among you is in charge of interns? Do you have an intern program and internship program that coordinates with college credits, for instance?
Correct. So Matt will interview the news interns, and he may ask some of the other staff to talk to them along the way, but we take interns in sales, we take interns in creative services. At any given time, we can have, you know, anywhere from 6 to 10 interns in the building at a given time. Most of ours are all for credit now.
Do you have any that aren't for credit?
I guess you don't necessarily have to be getting credit, but our internships they're unpaid internships.
Yeah, those are rare though. A lot of people need those credits, and that was really tough. Some of the students I spoke with were ready to pull their hair out. They needed an internship in order to graduate. They needed that as part of what they were doing, and they couldn't find one, at least not in their field, which is our field in communications. The other thing is, I don't think anybody had interns over the past couple of years because of the virus. And it's nice to see this opportunity opening up. And this is the tip of the iceberg because we're moving on now to a new beginning of sorts in our society, in our business. Some people who maybe laid groundwork a couple years ago had to put it on hold, like broadcast pioneers. We had to put our luncheons and such on hold because of COVID. And so it's almost like it's spring in the Delaware Valley, but it's also like a new beginning, a renewal of all of us in our lives and in our career. And when I get a beautiful day and I have daffodils blooming outside of my kitchen door, even if there's snow on the ground, that's fine, they'll live. And or a nice sunny day with a high around 70, Monica, I'm putting an order in. It's all part of the spring renewal, and it should make us all feel good. In light of the news that we all follow, I'm a news junkie, it can raise a person's blood pressure. It can make us very uncertain about what's in our future. No one can predict. But take a beautiful spring day and use that as the symbol for everything in your life. And we're ready to spring forward into new energy. And you know what? All of you have gotten to the place you are today because you put your foot out the door, you took a deep breath. If you're shy, like me, you put your shoulders back and you walk and you go, hello, I'm so-and-so, right? It's hard to do sometimes, but if you want to reach a goal, that's the first step. If you don't have confidence, fake it. Any other advice that you guys can give the students? We are going to get to each one of you, so put your thinking caps on. Tom Smith, just because you're the first face I see, what is your advice for the kids?
Networking. Meet people as much as you can. I didn't come from a news background. I graduated in 2014 from Villanova, freelanced for 2 years, then I internationally produced for 3 years for a digital marketing agency, and then I got tired of working for the man, so I came and started doing news. But during my time doing all that, I met people, and it's all about networking. Just when you're looking for a job, you can send your resume to as many people as humanly possible and see what comes back.
Excellent. Networking is a big thing. Sometimes you don't even realize you're networking because the people who are your friends and who you chat with sometimes eventually wind up being your coworkers. So it's just everybody you meet is networking. Everything you do in your life, every charity you're involved with, every meeting you go to, every hand that you shake in a store, it's all networking too. You never know whose father or mother is going to give you a job. We have a couple of questions. We actually touched on this before. Is the college degree really needed? What about broadcast schools or job experience? Thank you for the question from our audience. Does anybody have anything to add to what we've already discussed about this topic?
The college degree is a qualifier, right? It's one of the things that we look for. I would tell you, not everybody in our building has a college degree, but for the most part, most of our staff does, right? So it's important. It's important to get that piece of paper. I will tell, especially all the students that are out there, they're young, I would tell them to also include on their resume where they went to high school. You know why? Because it's a connector, as Thomas brought up. It's something else to talk about. So if you went to a high school up in Montgomery County, you just don't know who you're interviewing with. Or in Philadelphia, you can talk about the pride that you had and why you liked that high school. And if you went to a private high school, you never know who you may be talking to. That Monica happened to attend the same school where my daughters went. I then reached out to people who were in her age group that I knew to check out Monica, to find out about what kind of a person she was when she was in high school, because I had the ability to do that. And they vouched for her. And,
surprisingly, yeah.
Well, they're actually an outstanding group of kids coming out of your school, Monica. They were fans of my show back at another station, and the girls would wind up coming in for different things, and very sports and activity minded. So that actually produces good citizens.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, for me, I felt like the education was really important for meteorology. Understanding the science behind it all, so that when I do come up with my own forecast, I'm confident in my numbers. I'm confident in the forecast that I'm giving, and that just adds a whole other aspect to getting on air. If you're not confident in your forecast and what I'm saying, then I'm not going to sound good. But the more confident I am in those numbers, the more able I am to get in front of the camera.
I do have a meteorology question. Some people say, the news says there's going to be a big snowstorm and blah, 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 and then we don't get anything or we get an inch.
Mm-hmm.
But we have such a broad viewing area that some people are getting. It's like Philadelphia, what is it, about a month ago, Philadelphia got almost nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But the shore got clobbered.
Right.
But that's all part of your listening area. And people question, how can you make such a mistake? But it's not. You just tell them, over here, it's going to be bad. Over here, don't worry about it.
Right. And I think, if it didn't happen in their backyard, they think it didn't actually happen. But, that's one of the tough things about this certain viewing area is we have microclimates. So the shore's forecast is much different than the Poconos forecast, much different from Philadelphia's forecast. What I'm trying to do in any of my forecasts is just prepare people. So yes, sometimes I will say, there's a chance for snow. And if it doesn't happen, you were prepared for it, because in case that there was, it could have been detrimental to life.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Plus, all of our vacation homes, I shouldn't say all, but the people who have a second home at the shore or in the mountains, they need to know what's going on there as well. And and how it's going to be traveling there in case there's an emergency.
Well, especially, for those that don't even have houses down the shore, but rented 1 week a year. This is their big week to go down the shore. And all of a sudden I'm telling them, you've got rain. Obviously they're going to be mad at me. But it's not me. I'm the messenger.
Yeah. You should get a t-shirt made. It's not me. I'm just the messenger. Another question from our audience. Entry level for on air. And I have to say at this point, all jobs are not on the air. and you need to broaden your horizons and find people like Steve and Holly and Tom and the other people who are not on the air and come out, people who make it tick, who make it happen. You can wind up in a far more lucrative and secure job if you're not on the air. That can blow up for people. But it says, must you start in a small market?
Nick, why don't you take that?
Yeah, I'll speak to that because Vince and Matt know about my journey personally. I've been in the business for about 20 years. And as we discussed before, I did not go to a specialized broadcast journalism program. And I got my experience intern. And I'm gonna piggyback on what Vince said earlier really quickly about the internships. As important as it is for the place that you're interning to learn about you, it's equally important for you to learn about the place that you're interning specifically, but also the industry. You're going to learn so much about the industry in a quality internship. The smaller place you're at, the better it is because you're going to have to do more. You're going to see what really is required of you. Specifically with on air, I can speak to that because that's my journey. I, for one, had to travel away from my comfort zone. After I graduated, I actually went to Ohio first, tried to do some on-air radio first to get onto television. Didn't work out. Then I backtracked and went to Northern Maine. And just so some of you know about the television industry and kind of how many market sizes there are, one is the biggest. It's New York City. Currently here in Philly, we are in market 6, I believe, right? 4. I'm sorry, 4. It goes New York City, LA, Chicago, and then Philadelphia. So we're market 4. I started in market 207. There are 208 markets, just so you know. So
what's the difference in pay scale?
Yeah, so my first job, I was full-time. Now, I'm dating myself. It's about more than 20 years ago, but my first job, I was making $16,500. So now, granted, it was a lot cheaper to live where I was because it was a very small area, but I had to bust tables on the side to help pay the bills. So you have to kind of determine what your threshold is, what your passion for the industry is, and you're going to have to determine that pretty early in your career and be willing to figure out what you want to do and is it worth the while, basically.
You should also check
to determine that. And that's where the internship comes in because it really does help you identify what you're willing to do for the industry.
So if the kids want an internship, say at PHL 17, they should be on the ball and like send it in today.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There's also job shadows where you can, maybe not an internship, but you can, a lot of these places are willing to bring you on for maybe a week or two, or you come in for a couple hours a week and you just shadow someone in the industry, So
yeah,
that's an option too.
Boy, this went by quickly. We only have 2 minutes left. And does anybody have a final thought to share with our students on something that's going to help them get where they want to go in the business or forget about it? Tom, any final thought? Fast.
Man.
10 seconds.
I don't know. Good reel is also incredibly important coming out of college. So make a reel.
Gotcha. Matt, Toal.
This is not a glamorous job, whether you're behind the scenes or on camera. And you can ask the people who are on camera every day. It gets a little easier when you get into an anchor position as far as being out in the elements and things like that. But it's the hours are terrible. We have to work when people are at home so they can watch us. So, but if you have a passion for this and a passion for informing people and storytelling, then all that seems not like a big deal, and you'll really enjoy it. But it's not. We don't have makeup people and stylists. That's long gone in every market.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's early mornings. It's standing out in the rain. It's a lot of pressure behind the scenes and 8 people talking into your ear at once. But if you have a passion for storytelling and telling people stories, you'll be happy.
Yeah, I could tell you a story or two. So anyway, we have like just a matter of seconds left. Unbelievable. I just want to thank all of you for doing such a wonderful job. I also have a big thank you to Laura Lewis, who is one of my coworkers at Beasley Media Group. She's operations manager for 2 AM stations and took time to be here to produce in studio. Tony Harris from WMGK, who helped us, and Bill Gelhaus, our coordinating engineer. Thanks so much to you too. Without your help, we couldn't have done it. And all of you guys from the family at PHL 17, my eternal thanks. I hope that those I haven't already met in person, I will. You're all invited to Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia. You're all definitely qualified, and I would love to see you again in the near future. And thanks everybody for watching today. I hope this helps our students in their future in broadcasting. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, thank you.